She was a model whose dreams outgrew her reality. What started as passion twisted into something darker, jealousy, control, and ultimately a cold-blooded murder that left a millionaire dead and a family shattered. Marika Kukacova entered the world in 1990 in a quiet corner of Slovakia where ambition didn't come easy. But even as a child, she knew what she wanted. While other kids played games, Marika was already envisioning herself on magazine covers and international runways. By her teenage years, she'd begun working with local photographers, taking small gigs wherever she could find them. But Slovakia's modest modeling scene couldn't contain her hunger for more. At 18, she made a bold move, leaving everything behind and relocating to Bristol, UK, chasing the glittering future she'd imagined for herself. Reality hit hard. The modeling world she'd fantasized about was far more cutthroat than she'd anticipated. Opportunities dried up quickly. Bills piled up even faster. To survive, Marika took whatever work she could find, waiting tables, scrubbing hotel rooms, folding clothes, and retail shops. The glamorous life she'd envisioned remained stubbornly out of reach. Her confidence began to crack. Still, she refused to return home empty-handed. She was determined to prove she'd made it, even if that meant faking it. Then in 2010, everything changed. A jewelry store in Bristol posted an opening for customer service. Marika showed up dressed to impress, hoping to land the job. He was 44, self-made, and extraordinarily wealthy. Andrew had built his fortune from nothing. No family money, no shortcuts, just relentless discipline, early gym sessions, and long hours expanding his jewelry empire. He lived the kind of life most people only see in movies. Luxury cars, a sprawling mansion, and a reputation that opened doors. Andrew had been through a divorce and had a daughter named Ellie. His relationships with younger women often made headlines, but he didn't seem to care. When he met Marika, he was instantly captivated. For Marika, this was the jackpot, the man everyone wanted. Despite the decades between them, chemistry ignited fast. Andrew was drawn to her beauty and energy. Marika was mesmerized by his confidence, his power, and the lifestyle he offered. Suddenly, she was draped in designer clothes, carrying high-end handbags, jetting off to exotic locations. They escaped to a Spanish villa regularly, indulging in long weekends filled with luxury. For Marika, this wasn't just a relationship, it was the fantasy she'd been chasing her entire life. And Andrew seemed perfectly happy playing the role of her benefactor. But underneath the surface, trouble was brewing. Andrew was a businessman first, constantly juggling meetings and responsibilities. Marika craved his undivided attention. When he was away too long, the questions started. Then came the accusations. She monitored his every move. A friendly smile from a waitress or a casual conversation with another woman could trigger an explosion. Her jealousy knew no bounds. At first, Andrew dismissed it as part of her passionate personality, but soon arguments turned violent. Marika would scream, hurl objects, and make impossible demands. The man who once felt invincible began to feel trapped. What had seemed like love now felt like a cage, and when Andrew started pulling away, Marika didn't let go. She tightened her grip. Things deteriorated when the gifts stopped coming. It wasn't heartbreak that followed, it was obsession. Andrew Bush no longer recognized his own life. The affectionate woman he'd fallen for had vanished, replaced by someone controlling and unpredictable. Marika wanted access to everything. His phone, his schedule, his every move. She also spent his money without restraint, buying jewelry, designer bags, and expensive clothing without hesitation or permission. Andrew grew exhausted. Every time he tried to set a boundary, Marika responded with theatrics. She'd throw tantrums, create drama, and refuse to accept no for an answer. He'd been in relationships before, but this was different, darker. Then he caught her lying repeatedly. Once she even faked a car accident just to get his attention and make him worry. By November 2013, Andrew had had enough. He decided to end things permanently. He had a business trip scheduled to the Middle East and made it clear he was going alone. Marika was furious and begged to join him, but he refused. Days before his departure, Andrew came home to find Marika in handcuffs. She claimed intruders had broken in, tied her up, and stolen valuables, including his passport. Her story fell apart almost immediately. There were no signs of forced entry, no witnesses, no fingerprints. Police found nothing to support her claim. Andrew didn't buy it for a second. Instead of rekindling sympathy, the incident pushed him to walk away for good. He moved out and cut all contact. Marika was devastated. She couldn't accept it was over. She flooded his phone with photos of their time together, accompanied by sentimental quotes about love and loss. She posted their memories on social media, tagging him in hopes that mutual friends would intervene, but no one did. To everyone else, her desperation was obvious and off-putting. Eventually, Marika packed up and left the UK, returning to Slovakia. She made new friends, and for a while it seemed like she was moving on. Andrew, meanwhile, didn't stay single long. Just a month after the breakup, he started dating someone new. Her name was Maria, a 20-year-old from Russia. Maria was different from the others. She wasn't after Andrew's money. She was independent, paid for her own things, and lived on her own terms. That independence gave Andrew a sense of peace. With Maria, he felt like himself again, relaxed, confident, and happy. Their relationship flourished. Their social media accounts filled with images of tropical vacations, champagne-fueled celebrations, and candlelit dinners. But someone else was watching. Marika saw it all. The trip she was no longer part of. The smiles that now belonged to someone else. The life she believed was rightfully hers had been handed to another woman, and it consumed her. On the evening of April 5, 2014, Andrew and Maria landed in Malaga at 9:30, planning a quiet weekend at Andrew's villa. One of his cars, a Hummer, was waiting for them at the airport. After picking it up, they stopped at a nearby bar for a drink before heading to the villa. It was nearly midnight when they arrived, but something was wrong. Women's clothing was scattered near the entrance. In one of the rooms, they found pajamas, high heels, and a suitcase. None of it belonged to either of them. Someone else was there. Someone was still inside. When Maria turned around, she saw a woman standing silently at the top of the stairs, dressed in pajamas. Though they'd never met, Maria recognized her instantly from photos in Andrew's home. It was Marika. But this wasn't just an ex showing up unannounced. Andrew had actually obtained a restraining order against her, fearing what she might do. And now here she was, inside his villa at midnight. Terrified, Maria fled outside and waited, trembling with confusion and fear. Andrew stayed behind, furious. Marika had crossed a line, and he was determined to confront her. Maria stayed outside, hoping it would be over quickly. After some time, Andrew came out with a blank expression. He told her to call the police. Then, without another word, they both went back inside. Maria reached for her phone, only to realize it was dead. She found an outdoor outlet, plugged it in, and waited anxiously. Moments later, 3 loud bangs echoed from inside. Gunshots. Maria tried to convince herself it was something else, maybe a suitcase falling down the stairs. But deep down, she knew better. Shortly after, Marika calmly walked out of the house and approached Maria. "He's in the bathroom," she said casually. "He told me I could take the car to the airport." She held out the keys as proof. Still in shock, Maria stepped out of the vehicle. Marika climbed into Andrew's Hummer and drove off into the night without looking back. When Maria tried to re-enter the villa, she found the door locked. She called out for Andrew, no response. Finally, her phone had enough charge to make a call. She dialed Rachel, Andrew's sister. The moment Rachel heard what had happened, she didn't hesitate. "Call the police right now," Rachel urged. Officers were dispatched but struggled to locate the villa. Maria had to walk out to the main road and flag them down. When they finally arrived and entered the house, what they discovered was devastating. Officers searched room by room. Finally, they found Andrew lying lifeless on the floor, covered in blood. He'd been shot twice in the head and once in the shoulder. There was no pulse, no sign of life. He was already gone. A gun was found in his hand, but it didn't add up. Andrew hadn't taken his own life. The weapon had been placed there afterward, and there was only one person who could have done it. Marika had vanished. Andrew's Hummer was discovered a few miles from the villa, abandoned. There was no trace of her. A massive search was launched, first across Spain, then expanding throughout Europe. The question echoed everywhere. Where had Marika Kukacova gone? 4 days later, she quietly walked into a police station in Slovakia, claiming she was ready to turn herself in. Aware the search was closing in, she'd convinced her new boyfriend to fly with her to Spain. Instead, he picked her up and brought her back to their hometown in Slovakia, where she ultimately surrendered. Her explanation? She claimed she'd traveled to Spain to tell Andrew she was pregnant with his child. She said she'd arrived 2 days before Andrew and Maria, and neighbors later confirmed seeing her in the garden during that time. According to Marika, Andrew became furious when he heard the news and grabbed a gun to shoot her. In the chaos, she claimed the gun accidentally fired 3 times. But investigators quickly unraveled her story. First, she wasn't pregnant, and as for Andrew, he hadn't fired the gun at all. There was no gunpowder residue on his hands, proving he never pulled the trigger. Forensic experts determined the shots had been fired from around 5 feet away, far too distant for a self-inflicted wound. The evidence was clear this was premeditated murder. With overwhelming proof against her, Marika Kukacova was extradited to Spain 6 weeks after Andrew's death. She was jailed immediately and denied bail. In May 2016, her trial began. In court, Marika once again tried to portray herself as the victim. She claimed Andrew had abused her and that she lived in fear of his temper. But if that were true, why would she go to his villa alone? Why wait for him in secret? Her story didn't hold up. Why bring a gun at all? That question hung over everything. Marika's story shifted repeatedly. She later claimed to have ended the pregnancy, likely because the timeline disproved it. If she truly had been expecting in April 2014, the child would have been nearly 2 years old by the time of the trial. Her explanation then changed again. This time she said Andrew had invited her to retrieve her belongings. But again, if he was as dangerous as she claimed, why return alone? Even the scratches on her body were framed as evidence of a violent struggle. Yet DNA tests revealed Andrew hadn't laid a hand on her. Her injuries remained unexplained. As for the gun, it was never definitively linked to either of them, but one fact was undeniable. Marika was the one who used it. The timeline made everything clear. Marika had a choice when Andrew left the house and told Maria to call the police. Instead of walking away, she stayed, found a gun, and waited. When Andrew returned, she used it. On May 27, 2016, Marika Kukacova was found guilty of murder and unlawful entry. She was sentenced to 15 years and 6 months in prison, 15 years for killing Andrew Bush, and 6 months for breaking into his home without permission. In addition, she was ordered to pay Andrew's family 200,000 euros in compensation, along with covering all court costs. Her lawyers later filed an appeal, arguing that since she turned herself in and still had a key to the villa, her entry shouldn't be considered a break-in. In February 2017, Marika's sentence was reduced to 13 years and 9 months. But for Andrew's family, justice still felt far away. They weren't even able to bring his body home until 2022. It had remained in Spain for years, with forensic matters unresolved and Marika's appeals keeping the case in legal limbo. Each year brought more waiting. Then in 2022, Andrew's sister Rachel was scrolling through photos online when something caught her eye. Images of Marika in Spain, living freely. No headlines, no updates, no explanation. There was no official notice from the authorities, just silence and Marika's freedom. Those who loved Andrew had believed she would serve her full sentence. Instead, she was released after serving only about 8 years, a period they felt was far too short for taking a life. After Andrew's death, Maria publicly shared her grief. To say their final goodbyes, Andrew's ex-wife traveled to Spain with their daughter Ellie. Even now, they continue to search for peace in a world where justice doesn't always feel fully served.